welcome back to Let's Talk Somerville Real Estate. I am Joe Gatto with Prudential Buccelli Real Estate, and today I'm joined by my colleague Chelsea Kalled from Prudential Buccelli Real Estate. And we're also lucky enough to have a special guest host, Joe Gatto, who is not only my husband, but also has his own cooking show from scratch. So he is going to host today since he is an experienced TV host. So thank you, Joe. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So I'd like to just jump right in with both feet. First, again, I'm Chef Joe Gatto. I have a show called From Scratch, where we travel New England making everything from scratch. We hand-forged knives, we're pulling water out of the Atlantic to make salt, doing it all from scratch. I was lucky enough to be invited here today to talk a little real estate. This is their expertise. Put me in front of a stove. I'm a rock star, but we're going to get some really good advice. So let's jump in with both feet about Somerville real estate and what it's like.
Right.
I'd like to get some advice just in general on, I want to sell my house, okay? And I've had it on the market for a little bit. It's going nowhere. But everyone says the house is great. What can I do for simple fixes that are going to help me get this jump start and get that property selling?
Well, I'm really glad that you asked that because right now we're experiencing a little bit of a balancing in the market locally here. We're feeling a little bit of a shift, and sellers are actually having to put a little bit of effort in rather than, you know, everything is just flying no matter what condition it's in.
Yeah, we're seeing longer days on market
Okay.
than we were previously in the spring, say, or beginning of the summer.
When it was a hot market.
Right.
Yeah, I listen.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's still hot, but you know, you might want to do some things just to maximize your equity and make sure you're getting top dollar.
Okay, so why don't you give me one, then Chelsea, you give me one.
Sure.
So give me one off the top of your head that you think is just going to really make it sell quick.
Well, I have to say just one little story
Okay.
that actually involves you.
Oh, geez.
When, when we were selling our condo back in LA, where we lived for 4 years, we bought a condo, happened to be a foreclosure, and we did some renovations. We actually closed in a loft-style bedroom and made it an official 2-bedroom.
Right.
And we put it on the market because we decided after we had our baby that we really wanted to be back east with our families, but it didn't sell, and this was back in 2011.
I mean, it was a gorgeous property, and we had done quite a bit of work to it. And I mean, we had put it on for a lot more because we had got it as foreclosure, but we really couldn't figure out why it wasn't just selling right away. The market had balanced out. It was better at that point. But Carey came up with this great idea, which was?
To basically stage the property. And we went through with a fine-tooth comb and spruced up everything we could. And it ended up happily selling that very weekend for the asking price.
It did.
So,
and I mean, but there was a certain thing that I think, I mean, we had done lots of different things from painting to, you know, just really making it look great for the walkthroughs. But Carey had done this one thing. We had a hallway that led into a bedroom in the back, and we had a dark curtain that had closed off the back, so it had like a bat cave kind of effect to it. We didn't care, but when people walked in, all they did was see this dead space in the back. Wasn't very inviting. It made the property look smaller. But Carey switched that out for basically see-through
shears.
Like shears.
Sheer, yeah.
And the light poured through, and it literally was the next week. It sold. So that's a prime example of something when it's just a little fix, but it makes a big difference. So, Chelsea, what's something that off the top of your head?
I mean, I think, you know, it's important, especially in this area, it's mostly single-family and 2-family, 3-family homes. So I think it's important to make sure you maintain your curb appeal. You need to take care of your hedges and your lawn, make sure it's mowed. I think it's important to remove things like children's toys from the yard and things like that, because some people can't see past clutter. So it helps if they can really remove you from that space and put themselves there and see themselves living there. I think that's important. You know, depersonalize, take photos off the walls, anything you can do to make it seem like they could live there.
Making it more of like a blank canvas for them to imagine themselves there.
So they can come in and say, oh, well, I think I would put my couch there, and here's what I would do in this room. And they have to feel invited into the space and feel like they could instantly move in.
That's great. That's great. What else, Carey? What else do you like to tell your clients? You know, this is going to help you.
The number one thing, and this goes along with what Chelsea said, but declutter is basically the first thing you need to do. And, you know, just think of it as you're going to be moving anyway. Just start packing. Anything you're not going to need in the next, like, 2 months, just put it in storage, and just clear out all
Like
the
the kids.
counters.
If you
Ideally
can. No.
not.
Just box them up.
But definitely like kids' toys if you can, and pet toys and things like that, knickknacks. And
Yeah, I always found it
anything you
annoying
don't
when we
need.
were looking, when we'd look at pictures online on the MLS, and someone would have a picture that's off-center, dark, and it would just be all their laundry on the floor. And
God,
that
yeah.
is the most
Professional
uninviting thing.
photography
Who
is
wants
very
to?
important.
Right. Take the time, get a professional photographer, right? It's going to make a difference. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I know from my point of view,
Yeah.
when I'm looking for a property, I do want it to at least look uncluttered and inviting. It doesn't have to be the right paint color or anything like that. That can all be changed. But to make it look inviting, I think, is very important.
Something else we were actually talking about on the way here is you need to make sure from the get-go when you list your property that you're giving your real estate agent proper access to the property. They need to be able to access it so they can get buyers in there. You know,
Okay.
a lot of sellers say, well, you know, they have reasons why they don't want to give keys or for some reason want to limit access, but they need to understand that it needs to be available to buyers on a pretty semi-regular basis and to your agent so that people can get in and see it, so that you're maximizing your exposure. That's very important as well.
That's great. That's a great point. Now, say you want to increase the value of your home, okay, and you're thinking about selling it, or you just want to, you know, put some equity into it. Now, what room right off the top of your head, Carey, would you do first?
Probably the kitchen.
Okay.
I would agree.
Because not only is it the heart of the home, as you know,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
but you know, I think this is kind of a generalization, but a lot of people say that women end up being the decision maker of what home to buy.
I don't agree with that.
I know, it's a generalization, but to that effect, you do want to play up that kitchen because that's most important to a lot of women.
Okay.
But also just as a family, that's where you tend to gather and spend a lot of time for meals.
That's where we spend
and things
most of
like
our
that.
time.
We do.
I mean,
yeah.
the kids are up on the counter helping us cook, do our meals. I mean, it's an important place. I mean, that was big for us when we were looking for a home as well, that and a gas stove. But I mean, that's where you spend a lot of your time, you know, and I think that's a good upgrade, and I think that's something that when you're looking at a home, one of the first things you look for is a nice kitchen.
And you'd be surprised
Absolutely.
how, you know, economically you can redo a kitchen. You know,
Really?
just go to IKEA, and they have some amazing looking kitchens that can be done for, you know, $10,000, $12,000.
Wow.
And I'm talking like the whole thing. And yeah, a little bit can go a long way. So if you're willing to put a little bit of money and resources in at the beginning, you can probably get like 3 to 5 times your investment on the other end.
Now, see, that's great. That's a great piece of advice because, I mean, even something like maybe resurfacing your cabinets is going to go a long way. And that's something you can do yourself.
Or even just painting them and
Right.
putting new hardware on.
New hardware goes a long
Sprucing
way,
up.
right? I
Yep.
mean, putting down a tile floor is a ton of work, but, I mean, that's going to make a difference. And it's not going to be, the expense is going to be minimal, and the payback's going to be huge, correct?
Absolutely.
Now, if you're not doing the kitchen over, say, what would you say, Chelsea?
I would say, I mean, I've always heard kitchens and baths sell homes, so I would probably say second to that would be bathrooms.
Yeah.
And they're small spaces, so that keeps the cost relatively low.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think if you update a bath to make it look very clean and streamlined and modern, I think that would help.
I do
some of
too.
the bathrooms, especially in the area, some of these homes are older, a lot of them, so a lot of the bathrooms and kitchens are dated.
Yeah.
And if buyers come in and see that you've already done that, they see that you've cared for the property, you're motivated, and they'll want to buy the home.
Yeah, absolutely.
More
I mean,
so than someone who maybe didn't do those things in a home that they've seen.
Yeah, I agree with that because, I mean, everything else, like new coat of paint goes a long way, right?
Absolutely. And paint is very inexpensive.
Right.
Very
$100
small
in the
fix.
can, $10,000 on the walls.
Right.
That's great.
You know,
Absolutely.
and
That's
so
great.
it is a bit of a chore, but you know, if you can, just maybe you're vacating anyway, but if not, you know, just cover everything. Get a professional crew in because they'll be able to do it right without making a mess.
Right.
And they'll do it quickly. I would suggest doing that. And then, yeah, it just makes everything look so clean and fresh, and just goes a long way with those buyers, you know, making an impact.
And
it's
you guys
like makeup
are
on
always
a woman.
in Somerville, correct? I mean, you guys deal mostly in Somerville, right?
That's our
Occasionally
primary
outside.
market,
Primary.
but, you know, the adjoining towns and up through the North Shore.
So tell me a little about just the Somerville market. What's Somerville like? Like, what do you love about Somerville? Not just the homes that are for sale. What drew you to Somerville? Why do you love Somerville so much?
I really love Somerville because, you know, it has like such an artsy, funky vibe to it, and it's sort
Like
of yeah, yep. It's got a lot of, you know, personality, and
Like you.
it's diverse, and it's sort of like the segue between urban and suburban.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it
Oh,
has a
that's
very,
nice.
It's cool
very
like
good
that.
combination, you know, a feel of city and suburb. You know, it kind of
Yeah.
combines the two,
Yeah.
which is nice.
It's yeah.
It definitely has a cool vibe. It reminds me a lot of because when I was growing up, Somerville wasn't very nice. I mean,
Right.
it just wasn't a place you go, you know, but Cambridge was. And now I feel Somerville started to morph into like a Cambridge because it does have a heavy art community. The food scene's
Yeah.
amazing. And it's just a fun place to go, even with the kids. You know, you can bring them down there. There's a lot to do.
Absolutely.
Davis Square, you know, now tell me a little about Union Square. Like, what's going on?
Well, I just saw actually this Saturday there's a fun like food truck festival going on, and it's
No
like
way.
a hip hop thing. And fortunately, we can't go because we have other plans. But there's always
We're shooting
something.
my show.
There's always something happening.
Right. There,
Yeah.
and is there
Yeah.
something, is the tea coming down into Union? What's
I
going
don't know,
on?
Chelsea. Is the tea coming down?
Well, there's been a little bit of confusion with that. They had planned to put a T in. We were hoping by 2017. There's been a little bit of a mix-up with the budget, I believe, for the MBTA. So I think they're sorting that out, which it could potentially affect the prices that we're seeing in Somerville.
Well,
Could
that's
really
a good thing, though, because
help them
I
to
mean,
level off.
if it does take a little bit of time, it's a good time to jump in now before
Absolutely.
that commitment really goes all the way through, because then prices are going to skyrocket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a buyer, I would say.
Buyers
mean-
are excited about the potential of the T line, and those prices are reflecting that. And you know, interest rates are really low, so it's a really good time.
Yeah. What about like Davis Square? I love Davis Square.
Oh, Davis is great.
Is there a lot
It's
for
great,
sale down
but
there?
you have to have, you know, deep pockets because it's become unobtainable for a lot of people.
Okay.
For an average buyer, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a great place to be, but it's a little highly priced for like the first time buyer. But one thing we're doing actually this month is a condo conversion seminar. We're going to be talking to potential sellers about converting to condos, because that's been a trend in Somerville for the past few decades. And
Converting like what to your condos? Like
so like if you have like a multifamily, like
Okay.
a 2 or
Like a
3
triple decker
family,
or something, yeah.
you make condos out of it?
you could do condos, because typically it's the developers that come in and they do that and they make
Right.
a big profit doing that. But we're trying to give those same resources and tools to the, you know, the homeowner who may just have a family inherited multifamily and wants
Super
to do
And
that
it could help
themselves.
benefit both the buyer and the seller. They're still, you know,
Yeah,
they're getting
exactly.
their price on the selling side, and it opens it up more for a more typical buyer, a family that can't afford a 3-decker, but can
Right.
afford a 3-bedroom condo.
And I would think
Yeah.
that would help the community as well, because
Exactly.
people are sticking. It's
Right.
not
Right.
renting. You're building a community out. It's property they're going to stay in for a long time.
Right.
You
It's
know, and they're
more
going to
pride
care
of
about it
ownership.
more because they're not renting it, they own it.
Exactly. It's great for the neighborhood and for the community.
Well, let me ask you this, Carey. I mean, it's great with all the statistics and everything like that, but what for you as a person made you really get into real estate?
Well, actually, the story we were just talking about when we first bought and sold our condo in LA, that was just such a great experience. I found it really exciting. And the fact that we were able to add value to that property over the course of 1 year, I found really intriguing as well. And I also, coming from the entertainment world, which is where we were both working previously,
Right.
it felt like real estate was a career where you could have a little more or a lot more control over your destiny, and you can be your own boss. and build a business according to your own terms rather than waiting for, you know, some investor to decide he's going to invest in a film, which really isn't a very good investment.
But a television show was a great investment. Hello. From scratch.
I didn't say that, no.
What about you, Chelsea? What made you get into it?
I previously was in graphic design.
Oh, I thought it was prison. Sorry, my fault.
You're not supposed to tell people that. And you know, I found that I really loved graphic design and, you know, the flexibility and being able to be creative. But I was classically trained in print design, and as we know, things with the web and everything and the internet has really kind of taken over, and print was not so popular, and I didn't really want to get into web development. And you know, I've been renting for many years in the Boston area, and I worked with some rental agents that were not really that great, and I kind of said to myself, you know, I think I could do this better.
Yeah.
And there was, you know, a real earning potential with graphic design. Or not real earning potential, a real earning ceiling. Whereas with real estate, you kind of are in control of that.
Right. Well, that's a really good point, because it's really as hard as you work.
Yeah.
And one thing that I found just talking with you, Carey, is just dealing with a lot of real estate agents over the years. You know, you see what they want. They're always throwing statistics. They're always throwing this, the comps, this, that, and the other thing. But I think what makes you and Chelsea really stand out is, I mean, you really care about your clients. I mean, from your heart, you guys are really good, trustworthy people. And for me, that's what I look for first. I'm not looking, it's great. The numbers are great. You want to get a good deal. You want, you know, if you're selling, you want to make money. If you're buying, you want to get it at a good price. But you guys are really out for the people, the families, and helping someone get a home for the rest of their lives. And I think that's what makes you guys so different, because it's not about numbers. You know, it's really about the people. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I think that in this business, you know, and maybe in any business, but especially in real estate, trust is really the key factor. I mean, it's such a huge decision and investment for people in their lives, you know, whether it is a home or an investment property. And so you have to be able to build trust with people. And obviously, the only way to do that is to be trustworthy.
Right.
And to share the same, I like to share the same values with my client, you know, and those are primarily honesty and family.
Right.
And so when I work with someone, I'm always thinking about what would I want for myself if I were in their shoes. And I just basically am out to protect their interests. That's the number one thing.
I just think that's so important, because, I mean, when you're looking for a house, it's such an overwhelming process anyway, that you're just, I mean, you're out there, you're freaking out. I mean, it's hard, it's tough. There's so much going on. We had our kids, and we're looking, and it's just pushing, pulling. And then all of a sudden, when you have a real estate agent that you know is looking out for you, and you can trust them, and it's not talking like you're becoming close friends. It's someone that you have a business relationship with, that you respect and have trust.
Takes some of the burden off of you.
It takes a ton of the burden off, and that's what you need at that point.
Exactly.
You know, you're looking for, like, that Sherpa to take you up the mountain, you know, and that's what you guys, I think, both do extremely well. You communicate well with your clients.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You know,
I was just going to say, communication is key.
Yeah, and what's some of the things you do to communicate with your clients to make sure they feel comfortable?
I try to update them on a, you know, weekly or bi-weekly basis about where their standing is in the market, kind of what buyers have been saying about their property.
Oh, that's good feedback.
Things that I can do to, things that they could potentially do to increase the value of the home.
Like some of the bullet points you talked about earlier.
Exactly. And if it's a buyer, I make sure to get them on MLS emails so that they're getting every property that's potentially in their price range.
Perfect.
Or that fits their criteria. And I try to bring them out on, you know, and do showings.
Oh.
Multiple times a week.
Nice. See, that's great.
Just make sure that they're, you know, seeing everything that's out there that's available to them.
Yeah, and that's going to make them more comfortable with the process.
Educating them on what they're going to get in their price range and what criteria is realistic and what maybe some other criteria might not be realistic for them in their price.
That's also
important to
very
know.
important. You know, you don't want to show them the $1 million house and have their expectations up here and then show them the one bedroom and be like, this is what you can afford. You know, and I think you guys do that very well.
And I mean, you were talking about statistics, and, you know, you can find so much on the web now, on the internet. You know, you can find all the statistics you would ever want to see and all the information you'd ever want to know, but you need someone to interpret that for you
Sure,
and
they play a
explain
role.
it, you know, what it means to you at this time in this moment, because otherwise you're overwhelmed.
Well, I mean, I do the same thing as a chef with recipes. You know, when I want people to release themselves for the recipe, so I want to explain why things are happening and what they're doing, as opposed to just shoving,
Yeah.
you need 2 tablespoons of this and this and this. People don't know why, but when you explain it to them, they get comfortable. They're able to make more educated decisions as they move forward. All right, well, before we wrap it up, I do want to just ask one more personal question to each of you. And I just want to hear one, like, really, truly success story where you really helped somebody and you were so pumped about it.
Okay. Well, let's see. I mean, I just had an offer accepted, actually, for a buyer. This particular person, I sold her condo last year in Arlington, and she'd been shopping for actually over a year now because she really wanted to stay local to Arlington, Medford. But I kept kind of nudging her towards either the North Shore or the South Shore because she also really enjoyed being close to the ocean.
Okay.
And I knew she needed to be near the commuter rail and whatnot. So anyway, she ended up finding a charming single family in Hingham,
Ooh.
which does need some updating, but it's in a neighborhood of $1 million homes, and it's far below that. So basically, I think it's an awesome investment for this person, and it's a lovely area, and the commute is going to work out well. So I'm pretty stoked for her, actually.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So you know, talking about like coaching your clients and
that's
helping them find their way.
guiding, sure. But
Yeah.
what about you, Chelsea? Other than that, her husband Phil's also a rock star and he works with me on the show. Other than you finding Phil, give me a
Yes,
success
of course.
story.
I mean, that's my biggest success story.
Just the hair alone.
In real estate, I guess I would have to point out clients that I had last year. First-time home buyers, really nice, young, newly married couple
Nervous. Right.
Yeah, they were pretty nervous, looking for their first home to start their family. And they kind of got put through the ringer in the beginning. They went under contract at a property in Medford that, oddly enough, was a for sale by owner, which we highly advise against.
Right.
And what ended up happening is they went under agreement and the tenants living in the home refused to leave.
Oh.
So my clients were forced out of their rental that they had already given their landlord notice on and had to get a temporary rental and put things in storage, which was really kind of a nightmare.
That's
but
a nightmare.
it was kind of a blessing in disguise because the property turned out to have some structural issues.
Oh.
And they ended up in a much nicer, newer property in Melrose, right near the train, for less money.
We live in Stoneham, so Melrose is very
So
nice.
yeah, better, a little bit better for children in that kind of a community.
more of
A
a
little
community.
less, urban, a little more suburban for that. So and they ended up being really happy, and they're loving it.
That's awesome. See?
Yeah.
Rock stars. You want to go with people that you can trust, that really care about you. All right, so let's just, before we wrap all this up, what do you guys have coming up? I know you got seminars coming up, you got things on the plate.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
I have a flyer here for our seminar, Maximize Your Equity, and a subtopic of this will be condo conversions.
Great.
It's Tuesday, September 22nd at the Armory in Somerville,
Cool place.
6:30 p.m. And we're going to have a panel of experts there, including a real estate attorney, a mortgage planner, an interior designer, and an architect. And they'll be discussing a lot of trade secrets on how to maximize your equity. So it's going to be awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be a great time.
That's, I mean, people should just
and free
go.
food. Free
Yep.
food.
Free food. So, all right, well, guys, thank you so much. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
thank you
been a
so much.
pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this. And obviously, if you're going to go with a real estate agents, these are the people you want to go with.